Well, Pablo, I think we're live over on Facebook. You can share the stream if you want to.
All right. Hello, good evening, Reinhard. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Pablo, it's such a pleasure to have you. Many thanks for tuning in, for logging in, and for sharing your time with us. It's an absolute pleasure. Pablo, first of all, before we get going, tell us where you're joining us from, because the surroundings and the atmosphere looks brilliant.
Okay, I am in Olten, Switzerland, at the headquarters of Patoro, and sitting in one of our offices and enjoying a cigar.
Beautiful.
Yes. And it's a great honor for me to be here. Thank you very much that you give me the possibility to talk about my story, my brand, and so on. And first of all, I would like to congratulate you, what you did for the industry, what you're doing with this show. It's just phenomenal, and the success gives you right. Keep going.
That's so very kind of you. Thank you, Pablo. And I would like to let all of you guys know, everybody who's watching through Facebook, I mean, all the people here at Zoom, you're all regulars. But for everybody over on Facebook, please make sure to put all your questions underneath the live stream. We're always watching, we're always following. So please feel free to ask all your questions, and I will make sure to have them forwarded to Pablo for tonight's session. So without further ado, Pablo, a family legacy can be a blessing and a burden. And even though you're probably one of the young generation in the premium cigar industry, and Patoro is comparatively a young brand, you have an outstanding family legacy within the cigar industry to your name as well. Tell us a little bit about the background story of Dr. Pablo Richard and how you got into the cigar industry.
Okay, absolutely, with pleasure. So it's right. I mean, I grew up in a tobacco family. I'm in the fourth generation in the tobacco business in my family. Some generation were more, some less involved, but I'm in the fourth generation. I was always surrounded by cigars at home, outside. Everybody was smoking cigars. So it was kind of normal for me. So I went to school. I did the gymnasium, how you say in Switzerland. And on the level of university, to be honest, I didn't really know what to do exactly. So I always admire these guys who know from childhood where they go and they stick to that their whole life. So I think that's the freedom of the students a little bit. They can dream a little longer. And then some friends said, you know what, we're doing that numerus clausus test, which is a test that you have to pass when you want to study medicine. So I said, guys, I'm going to join you. I'm going to try this out. I'm very competitive, so I'm going to do this. So I passed this test and I started to study medicine. And to be honest, I really loved it. I was really into it. I was curious about the human body and so on. So I went through it. It was an amazing experience. I finished med school. I wrote my dissertation. And here the next step. I have to decide in which direction I go. So I had my first dream in my life is to become a plastic surgeon. So I looked, where are the best plastic surgeons in the world? And I saw in Brazil. So I took my bags, I flew to Brazil. I started to work in a clinic for plastic surgery. I liked it, I went into it. But after a while, I figured out I'm at the point that I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I said, it's maybe not that what I want to do my whole life. So I said, I have to change something. Okay, I went back to Switzerland, of course, my parents going crazy, thinking he's out of his mind. But I said, listen, it's not that what I didn't want to do my whole life. I think I want to follow my passion. I want to go back to the cigar industry. Okay, wow. And then I met Patrick Martin. Patrick Martin launched his brand Patoro in 2001. He was working over 10 years for my grandfather, side by side, an experienced guy. I heard a lot of good things in my childhood about him. So I told him a little bit about my plans, that I have some plans to do my own thing and so on in tobacco business. And he said, you know what? I feel you. You remind me a little bit of your grandfather. Maybe you have some talent. Why don't we partner up? Okay. I said, listen, why not? I'm young, flexible, and I like your brand. I smoked it before, and I think there's a lot of potential. And he said, yeah, well, but do you understand something from tobacco? And I said, you know what? Not really. I know how to smoke. I like smoking, but at the end, I have no idea. I just know what I like and I don't like, and that's it. And he said, well, yes, that's a little bit difficult. So I said, you know what? You're producing your cigar in the Dominican Republic at the Reyes family, your partners in the factory. Let me call them and see if they receive me in the Dominican Republic. So I called Nirka Reyes, and she said, you know what? If you feel your passion, come here, we're going to receive you. So I took my bags again. I flew to Santiago de los Caballeros in the Dominican Republic. And I arrived there. And I met Augusto Reyes, Nirka Reyes, the brothers. And I have to say, it was such a warm welcome. And I have to thank this family so much because it was such an amazing experience. The first point that I told Nirka and Augusto was, you know, I'm going to come here. You're not going to tell the people that Dr. Richard is coming, the grandson of Dr. Schneider, who wants to learn something about cigars. No, you say Pablito is coming, okay? And you want to learn about tobacco. And I want to work in every process you do. I want to work with the workers. I want to eat with the workers. I want to have the same life as the workers. They opened their eyes like that. They're like, oh my God. A couple of months later, Nirka told me, you know what? I thought a week later, you're going to come back to me and say, I'm flying back home. But they accepted the challenge and they let me work. So the first step was that I went to Navarrete to see Leo Reyes. It's the uncle of Nirka, Flor de los Reyes. I wanted to see the agriculture part in the beginning. So I took a car, drove to Navarrete, knocked on Leo's door. He opened and he said, hello. I said, I'm Pablito and I want to learn about tobacco. And he received me well, of course. And then the journey started. And I remember I woke up at 6. I was there by 7. And that day, we already started with a ritual that every morning at 7, we walk through the fields together. And he was telling me about tobacco. And just that moment at 7 o'clock, this quiet, the golden hour, you see the plant in its beautiful way, a little breeze, and you light this first cigar at 7 o'clock in the morning, a little earlier than you do it normally. But at this point, you just go. While I'm telling him, I'm getting goosebumps. This moment was just my beloved moment of the day. After these hours, I went with the workers, I worked on the fields, etc. But we continued every day this hour private lesson with Leo. It was tough because I tell you, the first day I did it, I didn't understand the word. I didn't speak Spanish. I said, hey, Leo, you need to talk with the hands. You need to show me with the plant. Otherwise, and after a month, I started to get the vocabulary. I went into it. I received tips and tricks, and it was just amazing, you know. Then going to the curing process, he included me into the fermentation, the aging process, and it went on and on and on. And after half a year, I decided now I need to do the next step. I need to go to the factory. So I went to the factory, meeting Nirka, Pedro, Jean-Michel, and so on. And there I was introduced to the blending process. So Fidel Abreu was the master blender for me, the chef. You know, for me, there's two key person. You have the Leo Reyes on the fields, agriculture part, and then you have the blender. He's the chef, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a quarter inch of seco. So he introduced me into that. And we blended every day. And you know, even nowadays, I don't say I can blend, that we still work together. He knows how to blend. I tell him what I like, and I think I have an understanding on the market, and this gives a perfect symbiosis. And that's how we worked. And that's just a short story about my experience in the Dom Rep. So
I love, pardon if I just interrupt you there for a second, but I love how you share all these emotions and the memories and the sort of the sensory sensations that you remember fondly from those moments. Give us just a hint of what were some of your earliest sensory memories in regards to cigars, because obviously with your grandfather's legacy and the history around your family name, when was the first time that you fondly remember sort of a cigar moment or that particular scent in your nose?
Okay, that's very interesting that you asked me. So I felt that I was smoking since I'm 5 years old, because I was surrounded by it. It was just the smell of family, of being home. And I remember when I sat on the legs of my grandfather at 5 years, he already gave me his cigars. He just put the thumb to me, you know, I took a puff and I thought it was the cigar, but, you know, but I was already into it. Okay, this was the first thing that I learned. Then, of course, I would say with 18, I started to get into it. And my first cigar, I still remember very well, was a Davidoff #2 given by my grandfather, because this was his beloved cigar. Beautiful, easy, creamy smoke. And I started with that. And this was my benchmark. When I then went to the Dominican Republic, the first cigars I smoked with Leo on the fields were pachuches, like that he rolled on the leg or on the floor a piece of newspaper. And you know, grado puro, so one leaf, and you know, it was fresh tobacco. And I remember when I smoked that, the third pachuche that I smoked, I mean, I was turning green. So this was a completely different experience, much more harsh and so on. But he told me this is the learning process. You need to learn it, grado puro, the different tobacco, that you can smell it. Only after that you can start to blend. Before, it doesn't make sense. So this was my real entrance into tasting, a little bit the rough way, but at the end, I liked it. And you know, it's interesting that you ask me these questions, because what you get through your nose, the memories are so intense. You know that, I know that even better as a doctor, you know, childhood, if you walk into the kitchen of your grandmother, you smell it. If you go somewhere and you have the same smell, it reminds you directly again of your childhood, of your grandmother. So these sensories are so intense.
And so important. I mean, they have such a deep meaning, and it's brilliant to have those fond memories, and it will always be with you, and it will always inspire your work.
Absolutely.
Now, Pablo, since you have a background in medicine, I have an interesting question for you, and maybe it sounds a bit weird in the first place, but I know you specialized on plastic surgery with your dissertation, right? And we all live in a time of self-optimization, perfectionism. We live in a world of Instagram filters and sort of our dream of eternal youth. Yet smoking cigars doesn't necessarily seem to fit that agenda. How do you personally think about our longing for immortality and perfectionism, and where does a more Epicurean lifestyle fit into that equation?
You know, I think cigar smoking fits into that world also. I know where you're going, that even my bosses at the hospitals, the Brazilians, were smoking cigars during their free time, you know. And I have a lot of friends that smoke. You know, it's for me, it's something else. It's not an addiction, it's an enjoyment. And you need to take time. You need to sit down for 1.5 hours. You need to relax, breathe. For me, it's an anti-stress. And I think that is healthy. You know, if you think about how many illnesses are caused by stress, or having stress as a major factor to the illness, is the major part of illnesses. So take that into consideration, that when you smoke, you relax, you get inspired. I think that is much more interesting and also healthy. At the end, you know, already Paracelsus said, the dose makes the poison. So everything you do in moderation. And I think also in the cigars, I love to smoke. In the DR, I smoked a lot of cigars, but then also once in a while, I made a break. I didn't smoke for a couple of days. I refreshed my palate. You need to give that to your body. You need to find the right balance, I think. And then it's an absolutely healthy thing.
Now, would you agree, though, that we're sometimes getting a little in our way with that strive for the perfect image and holding up that fake image of perfectionism?
You're right, absolutely. And to be honest, I also aim with my brand for excellence. I'm passionate, I aim for excellence and so on. But sometimes perfection, in the sense you're talking, is a little bit boring. I mean, I like people that are imperfect. Also, when I was in plastic surgery, sometimes if a young lady came and just wanted, you know, something over pushed, I said, listen, I don't know if it's the right thing, you know. So I think everything needs to be in moderation. It needs to fit you. And sometimes the imperfect things are much more beautiful than the perfection.
Now, would you say that those experiences that you just mentioned from your medicinal background had a major influence on the way you think about cigars and the way you go about blending and creating and dealing with people in the industry now? Or what were some of the key takeaways from your first career to the world of premium cigars?
I think what I learned in medicine is, you know, how you analyze something, how you analyze a problem. If you have a problem, how do you think? Maybe also the social part, working with people, finding out what their problem is, the psychological aspect, and so on. I think this taught me during my studies. And then, of course, the technique of the cigars, blending and so on. This was a new challenge for me. I started from zero, and I learned the things in the Dominican Republic, you know, and I learn still now every day. You don't stop working, you know. It's such a science, and so many things changes, and you're dependent on the weather and so many different things. So it's a constant learning process.
And talk a little bit about the transition. You mentioned the beginnings of Patoro, but when you came on board, Patoro already had a certain track record. What was it like for you with your family's background to then join a company like Patoro that was already well established within the industry, and then you bring in all your new experiences, your different take on things? And what were some of the very first projects that you were involved with?
So, you know, Patoro was a beautiful high-end brand. I always say it was like an unpolished jewel, well established in the Swiss market. I love that right positioning of the brand, price structure, and so on. But I said, if you have such a treasure, if you have such a beauty, you need to show it to the world. And that's when I came in and I said, you know, I'm young and flexible. I can travel. And so my first project was, I told Pratik, listen, if you want to have a saying in this industry, you need to get to the US market. The US market is the biggest in the world. You need to go there. We need to prove ourselves there. So again, I took my bag, I flew to Miami, and I met Christian Eiroa in Miami. And I told him about my plans, about what I wanted to do. And he was the second person that welcomed me into his family. And he put Patoro on the map in the US. We could use his sales team and so on. And until now, he's like a mentor to me. We talk to each other a lot, and he tells me a lot of things. And I would say, you know, I learned tobacco process in the Dominican Republic from the Reyes family. And then I learned more the business part and the distribution from Christian Eiroa. And I think I had two of the best teachers in the world for doing that. And I'm also very, very grateful to Christian that he helped me out with that. And then a little bit over a year ago, we decided to open our own distribution in the US. I also discussed this with Christian, and he said, listen, this is the next step, you know. I learned you how to walk, now you need to run. And we opened that. And the funny thing was that at the same time, a door opened because there was a program that they started, which is the direct ship program from UPS. And Jean-Michel Louis, together with UPS, implemented that. And our factory were the first one that did that. And now many brands followed, but it's such an amazing thing. We ship from the factory directly into the store, all in one. It's just fantastic. And that allowed us to move forward very quickly. And that's how we work now. And we have a sales director now in the US, Mike Vidra, an absolutely amazing guy. You know, he understands the philosophy. I think that's an important point, you know. I think it's not easy for him. You know, this crazy Swiss guy is coming over, telling him about quality before quantity, smoke less but the best, only quality goals. And he is the American guy who says we need to grow the sales and so on. But the interesting part is that he understood our philosophy, you know, and he now can translate to this philosophy to our Patoro ambassadors in the US.
That's brilliant. And yeah, I mean, it's about the team effort. It's about all the people coming together, just as with our Light 'em Up initiative for the cigar family in general. And Carlito Fuente just put a wonderful comment over on Facebook, and we say hello to Carlito. It's always so amazing to see him on the show. And he said that cigars bring so much enjoyment, yet only delivering those through the beauty and the peace and companionship, right? And that it's a natural medicine for the soul. And I think that is just a wonderful quote of a natural medicine for the soul. And I'm fully aware that you will perfectly resonate to that, Pablo, and that you will agree 100%.
I agree 100%. You know, it's so many different things. You know, if you smoke a cigar, for me, the first cigar in the morning, a lighter cigar, a creamy cigar with the coffee at 9 o'clock, for me, that is inspiration. I sit down, I'm getting creative, I think about things. Then in the evening, it's more to come down, to relax, that anti-stress factor to come down. And then on the weekends, I even go further and I say smoking a cigar is meditation. I sit back, I smoke, I breathe, and I concentrate on my breath and I think about nothing. This is meditation. You think it's easy, but no, try it out. But you will find your inner peace that gives you so much strength, and all through this leaf, you know.
Wonderful. Pablo, we of course have many questions and comments pouring in from people. Basim joining us here at the lounge, he had a question, and I know Basim brought some of the Patoro goods to the table today, and he's joining us with a wonderful Brazil Patoro, right? Basim, how's things over there?
Very good, Reinhard. Dr. Pablo, it's just amazing the way you're so passionate it. And I think so far we've seen every successful cigar company has such a passionate person leading it, and that's amazing. Um, what you said about cigars and health and how it relaxes us and reduces our anxiety and our stress and helps us live longer. That's a super thing, man. I'm gonna quote you for that. It's just amazing. I agree with you 100%. My question for you, Pablo, is you started in the medicine field before you moved into the cigars. Do you regret not moving earlier into the cigar business? And perhaps by now uh, you've done more in the cigar business, or you think that was important for you for where you are today?
Thank you for that question. And it's a very interesting one. You know, I think in life, everything happens for a reason. And of course, if you think like that, yeah, I could have started earlier and be further. But for me, this was a school in life, you know, and I don't regret it at all. I'm still practicing as a medical doctor in the Swiss Army. It's a month a year, but it allows me to keep the license and so on. So I still have contact with the medicine, and I like that I had to get into it every year a little bit. And as I said, I learned how to analyze a problem and so on. So no, it was a good step. And then I went into the cigar business because I followed my passion, I followed my love, and I felt this is the right thing to do at that moment. And that's why I entered. So I think if I could do it again, I might do it exactly the same way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you for the question.
I think it's such a wonderful realization in your life when you can make just that very statement that you just made, Pablo, where you'd be like, if I were to start all over again, I'd probably do it exactly like I did in the first place and do everything the same. And if you can say that, I think it speaks plenty and in abundance about you as a person and the journey that you had in your life. And interestingly enough, I recently read a book called Range, and it's about why generalists succeed in a highly specialized world. And I also think that it's very important to have all these different elements and different influences in your life and inspirations, because they will ultimately make you a different person and make you think differently about no matter what it is you do in life. And especially in the world of cigars, I always find it highly interesting how many different backgrounds and different talents you see in the industry. I mean, I've hardly seen any other industry where you have so many ex-musicians, then going into cigar endeavors. And I think you would agree that no matter what it is in life, it will impact and influence and inspire what you do next.
Absolutely. I think every step in life happens for a reason and influences your life, and it's part of your story and part of your journey, and you grow with it.
Pablo, since we were talking about Patoro, Brazil, uh, which I have here, it's a beautiful, fantastic smoke that we recently shared together with Johan, our dear friend. And I want to give a big shout out to Johan because he does such a fantastic job for the cigar culture and the premium cigar industry over here in Austria, and also, of course, taking care of Patoro. A brilliant guy, and I'm truly fortunate that we got to share this cigar together. But it has a particular story that's very close to your heart as well, and it's one of the first projects that you were so deeply involved with, right? How would you describe that particular cigar to people who've never smoked that one?
Maybe I have to tell the story a little bit. I only mentioned it. When I stayed in the Dominican Republic for almost a year, I said, when I come home, I want to bring something home. I want to implement something from my side. So my goal was also in the second part of the year to come up with a blend, to bring it to Switzerland. And that's what I did. I went home, I gave a cigar to Patrick. It's the Brazil. and it is on the market now. But I said I want to do something with Brazilian tobacco because I love Brazilian tobacco. I live the culture there. I love the culture, not only the beautiful women. I love the culture. I learned a lot from them, like being humble. They have barely to eat, but they dance and they drink and they're happy and they have a smile on their face, and that gives you so much energy. So I got the love there in Brazil, and I said I want to do something with Brazilian tobacco. I tried then several things also with puro, and with only Brazilian tobacco, but that didn't work out that well. So I said I want to do a blend. So at the end, it was a cigar with a Brazilian wrapper called Cubra for Cuban seed, grown in Brazil in the region of Bahia, then with a Dominican binder and Dominican filler. And I think the combination, the blend, the combination of Brazilian and Dominican tobacco just gives that special flavor profile, because I wanted to do a cigar that is different, that is unique, that when you taste it, you say, yes, it is something different. And I knew Brazilian tobacco more a little bit from short fillers and the lower end tobacco. And I said, I want to do a high-end cigar with Brazilian tobacco. And it is that Brazilian tobacco has so much character, but without being overpowering. It just adds that kick to it, that spicy sweetness. Especially in the beginning, when you only smoke the wrapper, you feel that. And once you get into the blend, into the Dominican blend, you have the creaminess, you have the balance. And that is the beautiful thing about that cigar. It's well balanced, it has complexity, it has strengths, but without being overpowering.
Speak a little bit about the collaboration with the Reyes family. When you think about the tobaccos that they are working with, and in particular the tobaccos from their own fields, how would you describe the profile and the individual characteristics of those particular tobaccos from the Reyes family?
The Reyes family, Leo Reyes is in the 6th generation in tobacco plantation. Mirka is in the 7th. It's just amazing. It was such a pleasure to work with people with such a know-how. They have a huge inventory that allowed us to take tobacco that were aged, like we have a vintage cigar with tobacco that were aged 10 years old. And they have a variety of tobacco. I think they work around 20 different tobaccos. So, I was like in the candy shop. I could figure out so many varieties, and I had maybe a little bit in the beginning in my head, the Dominicans, they do only smooth cigars, but I learned different. You can do everything in the Dominican, from a very smooth cigar to a really, really strong cigars. And myself, my preference is more in the medium. I like to go more for flavor than for strength. I like a well-balanced cigar. I like a creamy cigar. That's what I was aiming for.
And when it comes to the particular tobaccos, you mentioned the particular fondness that you have for Brazilian tobacco, but any other specific types that you like to work with, or that you would say are key and signature to the entire Patoro portfolio?
Yeah, key is absolutely the Dominican Republic that is growing on the fields of Leo Reyes, because all the blends we do are Dominican, 100% Dominican. We work with Piloto Cubano, San Vicente, Olor, all this Dominican tobacco, and this is the base, this is the core of our cigars. And then, of course, for the wrappers, we use tobacco from different origin. We use a Cameroon wrapper, we use a Brazilian wrapper, we use Ecuadorian wrapper. As you know, it's difficult in the Dominican Republic to grow wrapper leaves. But I'm very proud on Leo Reyes that he achieved that over years and years and years to grow his own wrapper. And we have Puro Dominicanos in our portfolio now with the Patoro Vintage, with the Platina, with the VA, with the limited production cigars, where we have a Puro Dominicano, 100% Dominican, 100% out of the plantation of Reyes. And I think that's a very great achievement.
Now, going back a little bit in history, how was the process like of actually finding a suitable partner to work with for Patoro Cigars, and how was that connection with the Reyes family established?
So this one was established by Patrick Martin in 2001. He worked over 10 years for the Davidoff Group, changed, and then he went to the Dominican Republic to look for a producer. And at that time, he found Augusto Reyes. And they clicked right away. They partnered up in the factory and they became friends. And from that day on, since Patoro was born in 2001, we work with the Reyes factory and the family. And I just came into that, and I had the pleasure to meet them in an easy way and to build a friendship with them.
What now makes the collaboration with Reyes special for you? Even though you mentioned some of the characteristics that you that are unique about that collaboration, but for you personally, I mean, you travel to so many countries, you live in so many countries, yet how does the Reyes family feel differently, and do you consider it home to a certain extent?
Yes, I would say I consider it as my second home. I traveled all over the world. I was also in Brazil, but there, I had a difficult start. I had to look for an apartment. I had to meet people. I needed to go into community. When I went to the Dominican Republic, they received me with an open heart. They said, come to us. You're a part of my family, of our family. And I learned the country from such a beautiful point of view, because these guys are over generation in that country growing tobacco. They showed me around, and you just get a side of the country that is much different if you are with people that know something very well. So to be honest, I think for me it was easy to fall in love with the country, with the tobacco, with the family, because I was well received like a family member. And yes, I consider the Dominican today as a second home.
Pablo, let me forward you a couple of notes that we get through Facebook, and there's plenty of people watching, and I'm truly grateful for all your comments and for your questions. And Woody, and we say hello to Woody and Najat. He sent a note that Pablo, it's fantastic to see you, and he wanted to commend you on the exceptional quality of the cigars and of the tobacco, which he always finds with his Patoro smokes. And we also had a question from Sixto in regards to the tobaccos. How many years does a farm have to plan ahead to keep up with the production and the demand for certain wrappers or filler and binder leaves?
It's a good question. And for us, it's a permanent process. They're growing every year. And since they're doing that, since 7th generation, they have a huge inventory, and the inventory just builds up. So for us, it's just a great pleasure that we can use the tobacco that was stored for years, and that we can choose the fillet of the tobacco plant to use for our cigars as we are partners. I think that's the huge advantage that we have, and not just taking tobacco, surging tobacco every year to make the new cigar, and I think that's also a factor of quality, because like that, we can be consistent. The consistency is so important in a cigar, and we use tobacco over years, exactly the same one, and keep the consistency like that. I think that's a huge advantage that we have because of the Reyes family.
And when it comes to purchasing the tobaccos, is that something that is entirely done through the Reyes family, or are you also part of that process?
I mean, it's the Reyes family that purchases the tobacco, but when I'm there, we go there together, we see the tobacco, they explain me from where it comes, the age of the tobacco, and so on. But at the end, of course, it's the Reyes family that buys it. They have the knowledge. It's a profession on its own. Also, I was involved in that process just to see it, but I leave it to the professional guys to do that.
Another question that we had, Pablo, coming from Pierre, who is here on Zoom with us, is in regards to the impact that your previous career had on the aesthetics of Patoro cigars. So tell us a little bit about that part of the
Of
company.
course, I'm a very aesthetic person.
As we can all see, dapper and well dressed.
Thank you, thank you. Likewise. And of course, that's why I clicked very well with Patrick from the beginning, because he had that same mentality, he had that same flair for beautiful things in life, for nice design. So when I saw the logo of Patoro, Star Patoro, it was just, I said, it's a perfect logo, you know, it's a strong name. Patoro, you can say it in every name. It's a combination of Patrick and Oro, so Patrick's gold in Spanish, Patrick's most precious one, and the logo, just Star and P, easy, classic, recognizable. I just clicked into that because I had that eye for the nicer things. And of course, I'm influenced because of my profession. You get that a little bit. You try to go to perfection, of course.
I really like the minimalistic style of the Patoro rings, and also with the little star. In a recent, I read an interview of yours. It's probably from a couple of years back, where I saw the question whether there's some communist relationship between Patoro and the logo, and I thought it to be really funny. But where does that star actually come from?
Yeah. So it has nothing to do with the communism. That when Patrick launched the brand, at the beginning, he said it was benchmarking. You know, he looked at other brands where you see the stars. So he saw the star in San Pellegrino. He saw the star in the champagne with Dom Perignon. He saw the star in watches with Zenith, and so on. And he just liked that. And he said, nobody really has it in the cigar industry. Let's take it, you know? And I like always, if you use something that there's a story behind, you know, like San Pellegrino, they aim for Michelin star restaurants. That's why they have the stars. The first guy that opened a Dom Perignon bottle, he said, I see the stars. Come on, friends, let's drink the stars. And for us, the star with the 5 corners are the 5 emotions that you feel when you smoke a cigar. So joy, satisfaction, awe, serenity, inspiration. So really the emotions you feel when you smoke it. That's our story behind the star.
And beyond the simplistic band, you also have a rather clear and concise portfolio. It's not all over the place, but it sort of has a always clearly identifiable Patoro signature. So whenever you, at least I find, whenever you smoke a Patoro cigar, you immediately realize this is one handwriting, this is the signature of the company. How do you go about developing new lines or creating new blends, and what other ideas do you have in mind on what to bring to the table?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. A lot of people ask it to me. A lot of people also ask me, why don't you bring much more lines into it every year? I always say, listen, we already have 6 different lines. I don't just want to bring every year a new line. It would be easy, turnover goes up, but I want to work on the core lines. I want to make the core lines icons. That's my goal, you know, and that they stay like that. Okay, for sure, we have cigars that are in the aging room. We will bring new lines. We will come with limitadas, but step by step. And yes, you're right. If we do it, it's clear with the colors, you know, Serie P, orange, green, British Racing, green Brazil, red Gran Añejo Reserva, and then we have the limitadas. So the differentiation with the color, the different lines, that goes like that. So the next one will be the next color, of course.
Mm-hmm. Now, interestingly enough, we talk about this quite often here at the Light 'em Up Lounge with different manufacturers and people from all around the world. When it comes to consumer behavior, obviously a lot of people in the United States are always on the lookout for something new. So they would come to the shop in the lounge and be like, what's new, what's next, what else could I try? Whereas in Europe, people are a bit more reluctant to change, if you will, and maybe a bit more brand loyal. Since Patoro, as a European brand, quintessentially is also very successful in the United States, how do you see those different consumer behaviors in different parts of the world?
Okay, so there are some general things that you see. I mean, in general, in Europe, you more have the mild to medium smoker, and in the US, you more have the medium to full smoker. I think you can say that in general, but at the end, there is no rule, because what's the best cigar in the world? It's the one you like, right? And tastes are different. Quality, you can see the wrapper, the burn, and quality always has its price, but tastes are different. And of course, I've traveled a lot in the United States to understand the people there, see what they like, adapt to this, absolutely. But at the end, we make a cigar that everybody should like, And I still remember my grandfather who gave me that number 2 from Davidoff. He always said, what is a good cigar? It's a sold one. Yes, it's a sold one. But you know what I like when I smoke this number 2? I feel like I could smoke another one. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like. That's why I go into this direction of the balanced cigar. And that's where I aim to.
Can you, from your experience, going into the tobaccos in a little more detail, probably tell us, where do you get that clean finish from, or how do you intricately work on the blend in order to achieve such a clean finish and not having any unpleasant residue on your palate, and to make sure that after a cigar you're still good for another one and you still want to light up your next Patoro?
I think the key is fermentation and aging. There's no shortcut in cigars. We do multiple 3, 4 fermentation. We age tobacco at least 4 years. That's where you get the clean smoke. At least, there is no shortcut. You need to give the tobacco time, and the tobacco will tell you when it's ready, not you're going to tell the tobacco when it's ready. And we have the people there that will tell us, and we will never rush it. That's why also now in Corona times, we had some crazy sales and some formats are out, and we have cigars in the aging room, but we say, listen, take your time. When cigars are ready, we will bring them, but not before. That's our philosophy, quality, 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 and quality before quantity. And I think if you aim for quality, the sales, they will follow. It's just a matter of time. And I think that quality will always survive.
I couldn't agree more. And Pablo, because you mentioned again some of the memories of that Davidoff number 2, when you look back in history to that first number 2 that you smoked together with your grandfather, to where the industry is right now, what kind of an evolution do you see within those past couple of years, and how do you feel about the change in the industry and what's currently happening?
You're talking about taste profile.
Well, frame your answer however you want to, but I think it's a matter of, yes, taste profile, of course, and what people are looking for in terms of tobaccos and the actual smoke, but probably also the way we communicate, the way we get together, and how the industry as a whole works.
Mm-hmm. So taste profile, I saw that also when I went into the US market, that at one time everybody wanted a strong cigar, put as much as ligera as you can, just a hammer cigar. And I was a little bit shocked, and I was smoking these cigars and what the hell, but I saw this trend, and I think that this trend came back a little bit more, came back to more balanced cigar again, to more flavorful cigars. But in general, I saw this development which came back a little bit. And at the end, you know, it is a very traditional product and it will stay traditional. So Davidoff number 2 still nowadays is an icon. You don't need to change that blend. It's just, it will stay forever, you know, like Partagas D4, it will stay, it's an icon. So I think the good things in life, they can stay forever.
A quick fire question for you from Ruben, who's here at the lounge with us. Do all Serie P have a Cameroon wrapper?
It's a good question. No, there are 2 variations, and there is a Serie P with a Cubra, a Brazilian wrapper in the US. So same blend, that with the Brazilian wrapper, the Serie P in the US, and we will also come with the Cameroon one a little bit later on. That yes, there is one.
And then coming back to some of the evolutions within the cigar industry, how do you see, and of course COVID sort of changed the whole theme, but how do you see the role of cigar media and communication in the world of handmade premium cigars in 2020?
Yeah, as we see today, we're sitting together in a Zoom meeting, everybody at home smoking a cigar. I think it's a beautiful thing. And it just came a little earlier than we expected, that we have to anticipate. And I think it will stay. But at the end, you know, coming together in person, face to face, sitting together, I think this is still the most important thing in the industry. And I hope that sooner or later, we will be able to do that again, because you can't change that, you know. A lot of Latin people, they like to hug each other. You need to feel each other. And that's what makes it interesting. I mean, I made so many connections, friends, just through the cigars, you know. And the beautiful thing is you sit together at the table, sharing the same passion, the tobacco, with people from different cultures, different background, and they all connect because of that leaf. And I think that experience is only when you're there together in the lounge. Now, of course, we do this Zoom meeting. It's part of us. We will continue. But I hope that the traditional way that we sit together will come back soon again.
Would you say that your particular takes on the cigar culture were deeply engraved in your DNA through the family background, or was it really something that you discovered for yourself during the process of enjoying and smoking fine cigars?
I would say it's a combination. You know, I believe that tobacco is running in my blood. I totally believe in it. But to be honest, a passion doesn't fall from the sky. You have to go and reach the passion. So I was smoking cigar, but not yet had the tobacco into me. So I had to reach my passion. I had to feel it. I had to go into it to really feel what's all about. So I say it's a combination. Of course, I felt that I belong in this business, but I had to work my way into it. And I'm very happy that I did. Because, you know, it's a lovable industry, you know, it's industry of love, I think. And it's, you only feel that when you're into it. Nobody else could tell that.
Could you share some of the core principles and the work ethics that your family installed in you from an early age on?
I think so. You know, to be honest, when I do news tragedies, when I go into a market, when I hear myself speaking, I feel that, of course, I have similar philosophies, you know, only quality goals, aim for the best, true excellence. You know, when we enter into a market, and we don't want to be everywhere. We want to get the Patoro ambassador, only the best, and move slowly, step by step. Of course, these are things that I heard and lived from the family background.
You're sitting in a beautiful environment. You told us a little bit about Alton and the surroundings that you're in, and it's it's a bit of Patoro reaching out into yet another discipline, hospitality. And since I have a hospitality background, always love to see the confluence of these worlds, and where hospitality and the art of hosting and treating people well collides in the most positive way with the world of handmade premium cigars. Um, what to you personally are the similarities between cigars, the hospitality industry, and how does that lounge element and the experience that people can have when they come to Alton factor into the overall brand identity of Patoro?
It is a very, very important factor, you know. I'm here in Alton at the headquarters. We have a big walk-in humidor, we have a lounge, we have a bar, and now we also have Pator La Cocina, and it's a private club, and we have a private chef that cooks for the club members on Michelin star level. And it all comes together. If you come here, you live Patoro, you know, you don't only smoke Patoro. We developed our own wine in the Tuscany in Montalcino, where they do the Brunello di Montalcino. We said we're going to do a blend similar to the cigars with Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sangiovese, and a little bit Petit Verdot. So we said we're going to create the Patoro wine. We have the Patoro chocolate that we took the cacao beans from the Dominican Republic with the Swiss recipe. So you eat Swiss Patoro chocolate. So I think for me, it's not just when you come, it's not just smoking a Patoro, you're eating Patoro, you're drinking Patoro, and at the end, I hope you dream about Patoro. No, but it's that whole life, you know. I like when you taste something, the room smells nice, you have nice music in the background, and it just all comes together and gives you an experience. And I want the people that they go home with that experience, and that makes the whole Patoro lifestyle the good life.
And as we often discuss, and we always say, it's not about the actual product, even though we love to get geeky about the blends and the leaves and all the hard work and effort that goes into it. It's truly about the overall experience, right? And it's all these little elements around it and all these subtle details that will elevate the experience and thus make for the overall culture of the cigar. And I know that lifestyle is sort of a highly overused and probably a bit overrated word, yet it's probably the best way to express the confluence of all these different factors. How do you feel about cigar lifestyle? Or what apart from what you just told us, what does it mean to you?
You know, I think once you get into it, you feel it. You know, the cigar becomes a friend to you. It's a friend that is always next to you, that follows you. It's just, it becomes part of your life. I mean, I have cologne, but part of my cologne is tobacco, you know, and my girlfriend is already used to it. It's part of my personality. I smell like tobacco. I smoke cigars. And I think everybody that is in that business feels that. And once you're in, you can't get out. You know, if you have the virus, I don't talk about the virus nowadays, but if you have it, you know, it's just a beautiful thing, and you can't describe it. It's a friend.
Pablo, I think we have to work on a little idea, because I always loved the story of in Andalusia, for example, with the sherry world. You know, oloroso, a particular type of sherry, for example, is the one that smells beautifully, almost like a perfume. And the capataz, the cellar master in Andalusia, they always took their handkerchief and put it in a little bit of sherry in order to wear it as a perfume. So you should probably work on a little Patoro perfume with a particular scent of individual tobaccos that you factor in there.
I think you mentioned a very interesting point about sharing. You know, I said that this industry is love. And love, what does it mean for me? It's not just love between two persons. No, for me, love is much more. Love is sharing, like you said, sharing food, sharing experience, sharing knowledge. It's so important. You know, the most beautiful humans are the mothers. Why? They share during 9 months. They share the nutrition, the oxygen with the child. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on earth. They share, and it's the base of everything. And respect is so important for me. Respect with your coworkers, with people, but also with the nature, with animals. That's love for me, you know. And at the end, the third point, what is love, is to forgive. Because I also talk to my people around me, they need to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the learning process. That's how you learn, and you need to forgive. If you are able to forgive, you can love, and love, people can love you.
Very interesting point about also particular failures and things that probably didn't go the way you intended it. Did you have particular moments in your career where you felt like something went totally bust, but it ultimately became a wonderful success story in the end?
It's a good question. You know, I make a lot of mistakes because I try and error. I think that's a beautiful thing. So sometimes I tried blends. I send it home to Patrick. He smoked it and he said, "You're out of your mind. That's just," and I said, "Okay, I keep going." And it's a process, you know, something I failed several times in my life, but I think if you fail, the important thing is to stand up, to shake, and to go on, and to always have a goal in front of you and go straight to it. And there's always ups and downs, and you need to overcome them.
Absolutely. And I think an element of failure is part of every successful vita and every success story in general.
Absolutely.
Pablo, when your grandfather took over the Geneva store from Zino Davidoff, which was exactly 50 years ago, he had a clear vision. What is your vision for the future of Patoro and for your personal journey?
My vision is to make Patoro a global brand, but always keeping in mind our goals, which is quality. So we want to grow step by step. We want to be in the most important markets, and we want to establish ourselves in that. That's my goal, and that's where we are going, and where we're aiming to build a global brand, build a Toro lifestyle. People can live it, be with us.
Any like critical next steps in the near future that you have ahead of yourself and for Patoro in order to get on that journey of making Patoro a truly global brand, which it already is, of course?
You know, we have our store in Alton, our flagship store, our concept, and of course, I would like to have this concept in different cities, in different countries of the world. That would be one of my dreams. At the moment, we have a lot of markets open, like around 15 in Europe, and at the moment, we want to establish our brand in those markets and work these markets before we enter into new one. I think that's our next step now, to really work on that and to establish the brand in the new markets.
We had a good follow-up question on that from Stefano, who's watching over on Facebook from the Cigar Club in Switzerland. And he was saying thank you for the wonderful cigars that you had in the tasting back in August. But his question was, which countries have Patoro, and where would you personally like to see the cigars next, since you are in charge of the international sales?
There are a lot of countries. You know, we focus first on Switzerland, Germany, and the US, the main markets. But then we have Austria, like I visited to last week. We have France, we have Spain, we have Slovakia, Romania, we have Russia. And I think at the moment, this is enough. I think the next big step, if we're good where we are now, is maybe go to the Middle this territory yet, but I think that would be a big next step for me, and that I would like to do.
And a wonderful question again from Pierre here at the lounge. Do you personally think that the process of manufacturing cigars could ever become an officially acknowledged cultural heritage? He was asking about the Dominican Republic in particular, but I guess also in the other manufacturing countries. Instead of it just being seen as an industry and as a manufacturing process. And if that ever were to happen, what could be the steps needed for such an acknowledgement?
You know, what he says, that's my dream. It's my dream, and I thought about it, and I think it's a dream of everybody, because it should be. But the steps that we can do that, you tell me. I don't know. You know, we need to talk to a couple of politicians, to a couple of guys that that could help us. I don't know the way, but it would be one of my dreams as well. Absolutely.
And I think you need to sort Bassem out down in Ghana. He definitely wants to bring Patoro to Ghana, so you probably need to have a one-on-one conversation afterwards and see how you can figure that one out.
With pleasure, with pleasure. I'm open to talk about new markets anytime.
Pablo, well, first of all, I truly want to thank you for all the wonderful work that you do, for having such a deep love and passion and enthusiasm for the cigar industry. It's refreshing and it's invigorating and inspiring. And I can't thank you enough for the wonderful contribution that you and the whole Patoro family make to our beloved industry. And we also try to make our little contribution here through the Light 'em Up Lounge. And as you all know, Wednesday is Light 'em Up time. So next Wednesday, we will have another wonderful session. This time, actually this time next week, it's going to be Pierre Jourdan from Le Fin Lam. So we will look into a little more of the accessory side of the industry, but definitely have a great chat with Pierre on his thoughts about the industry and how Le Fin Lam factors into all of that. So please make sure that you sign up for our newsletter or join us again through the Facebook live stream. We'll be back next Wednesday, same time, same station. Before we wrap things off, I have a final question for you, Pablo. And I'm curious as to if you look back at your family history, smoking your grandfather's thumb at the age of 5, and then that first Davidoff #2, if you were to give yourself and your younger self an advice for life, what could that possibly be?
I think find your passion, follow your passion, and do it often. Because I think if you found your passion and you could do it like me, make your hobby to your profession, that's the most beautiful thing in life, because you will see that you won't have to work. The hours just flow away and you're constantly working, but it doesn't feel like work. And I think that's the most beautiful thing.
And I couldn't imagine a better way to end a wonderful conversation. Pablo, thank you so much for an inspiring evening and for sharing all your thoughts and considerations with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to share and enjoy another cigar with you soon. All the very best to you and the Patoro family. Be safe over there in Alton, and until next time, light 'em up. Thanks for being part of the show.
Thank you very much, Reinhard.